Christian Horner is heading to Aston Martin, and that creates a massive problem for Adrian Newey. Not a technical problem, a political one. Newey insisted he could handle being team principal alongside his design duties. He pushed Andy Cowell aside and took control. But the AMR26 disaster just proved him wrong. And now, Horner might be coming anyway. Reports say Aston Martin is Horner's most likely destination after Toto Wolff sabotaged his Alpine comeback. That puts Newey in an impossible position. Accept help from the man he worked with for 20 years and admit he can't handle team principal duties alone. Or refuse Horner and watch Aston Martin's super team vision collapse under the weight of Honda's catastrophic reliability failures. Either way, Newey loses. That's the new trouble the legendary designer is facing. Not vibrations or power unit failures. The realization that he needs Christian Horner to save a project that's already threatening permanent nerve damage to his drivers. Here's how he got to this point. Horner has been negotiating to buy Otro Capital's 24% stake in Alpine for months. Flavio Briatore, Alpine's executive advisor, publicly confirmed Horner's interest back in January. The plan was simple. Join as part of a consortium, buy a minority stake valued around £448 million, return to F1 with Briatore running the team. Then Toto Wolff destroyed that plan. Mercedes emerged as a surprise bidder for the exact same Alpine stake. Wolff is personally leading the bid. And if Mercedes buys into Alpine, Horner's comeback through Enstone is finished. Wolff would never work with Horner. Their rivalry runs too deep. Years of bitter battles while Red Bull and Mercedes dominated Formula One. The heated exchanges Netflix captured on Drive to Survive, that famous porpoising argument where Horner told Wolff, "If you've got a problem, change your car. This isn't business. This is personal." Wolff has leverage. Horner doesn't. Mercedes supplies Alpines, power units and gearboxes through 2030. That relationship gives Wolff influence over any ownership discussions with Renault Group, which still owns 76% of the team. Even if Mercedes doesn't win the bid, Wolff could use those engine contracts as negotiating power to block Horner's deal entirely. Subscribe now because Horner joining Aston Martin could completely reshape the team's future. Help us hit 10,000. With Alpine potentially closed off, Horner needs an alternative quickly. And Aston Martin desperately needs what Horner offers. Sky Sports revealed Aston Martin already offered Horner a stakeholding plus a leadership role alongside Newey following his Red Bull departure last July. Those talks broke down. Lawrence Stroll reportedly told staff that Horner joining was absolutely not happening. But circumstances have changed. The AMR26 disaster changed everything. The car is broken. Vibrations from the Honda engine are so severe they're threatening permanent nerve damage to Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll. Newey confirmed Alonso can't safely drive more than 25 consecutive laps before risking injury. Stroll's threshold is just 15 laps. The Australian Grand Prix runs 58 laps. Aston Martin completed only 400 laps across 2 weeks of pre-season testing. Mercedes did over 6,000 kilometers. This isn't a performance gap. This is a crisis. Stroll described the vibrations as feeling like electrocuting yourself in a chair. Mirrors and taillights physically shook off the car during testing. The battery kept failing because vibrations damaged components. When asked if the vibrations improved during the Australian GP, Stroll gave a one-word answer: no. Lawrence Stroll called the situation very unexpected. Newey revealed they didn't find out about Honda's problems until November, when Stroll, Andy Cowell and Newey flew to Tokyo. That's when Honda admitted their original power targets wouldn't be met for race 1. That's also when Newey learned Honda's experienced F1 engineers hadn't returned when the manufacturer restarted its program. The current Honda team is mostly new to Formula One. Newey publicly blamed Honda for the failures. He said the AMR26 chassis is actually the 5th best on the grid, with tremendous development potential being wasted by power unit problems. That's Newey throwing Honda under the bus in front of the entire paddock. The relationship is already strained. At the Australian GP, Alonso started 17th and jumped to 10th on the opening lap. Then the car died. He retired early to preserve components. Stroll missed final practice and qualifying entirely due to engine issues. He started the race anyway. He finished 15 laps down, completely unclassified. This is where Newey's problems began. Not the technical failures, those are Honda's responsibility. Newey's problem is that he thought he could manage this crisis while also being team principal. He can't. Andy Cowell was supposed to run the team while Newey focused on car development. That plan collapsed when Newey and Cowell had a power struggle. Newey won. Cowell got reassigned to Chief Strategic Officer. Newey became team principal for the first time in his legendary career. Sky's Craig Slater suggested Newey told Lawrence Stroll he doesn't need Horner, that he can handle the team principal role himself. That makes sense. Newey's ego and confidence would absolutely lead him to believe he can do everything alone. He's the greatest aerodynamicist in Formula One history. Why would he need help? The Australian Grand Prix answered that question. You can't be team principal and lead designer simultaneously when your manufacturer partner delivers a power unit that threatens driver safety. You can't manage Honda's political fallout, driver frustration, sponsor concerns, FIA regulations, and car development at the same time. It's too much for one person, even Adrian Newey. That's the new trouble Newey is facing, admitting he needs help. Specifically, admitting he needs Christian Horner. Many in the F1 paddock are wondering if Lawrence Stroll will force the issue. Bring in a CEO to take pressure off Newey whether he wants it or not. Someone who handles team operations, driver management, sponsor relationships, and political battles, while Newey focuses on designing cars. That person could be Horner. Horner knows how to extract the best from Newey. He proved it across 14 world championships at Red Bull. He knows how to shield Newey from distractions. He knows how to navigate FIA politics. He knows how to manage owner expectations. And he wants an ownership stake, which Stroll has already proven willing to give by offering equity to Newey. Despite Newey leaving Red Bull in 2024 during Horner's controversies, reports suggest they've repaired their relationship. They could work together again if the situation demands it, and the situation absolutely demands it. The timing works perfectly. Horner's settlement with Red Bull allows him to return to the F1 paddock starting in May. That's just after the Miami Grand Prix. Perfect timing to assess Aston Martin's situation through the first few races and step in. He needs a deal done by September for contractual reasons. Aston Martin needs help immediately. For Horner, Aston Martin solves everything. The Alpine door is closing because of Wolff. Ferrari doesn't need him. Haas is too small for his ambitions. Aston Martin gives him ownership stake, leadership role, a chance to prove himself outside Red Bull, partnership with Newey, and access to significant resources from Lawrence Stroll. For Newey, Horner's arrival solves everything except pride. It takes the political burden off his shoulders. It lets him focus on what he does best. It gives Aston Martin the leadership structure they desperately need, but it also means admitting he can't do it alone, that the team principal experiment failed, that he needs the man he worked with for 20 years to bail him out. That's uncomfortable. Newey spent decades as the genius behind championship-winning cars. He's never reported to anyone in a meaningful way. He's always been the irreplaceable technical asset everyone else accommodates. Now he'd be sharing power with Horner, taking direction on team management, accepting that design brilliance doesn't automatically translate to operational leadership. The obstacles are real beyond just Newey's ego. Martin Brundle said on Sky Sports he thinks Aston Martin and Honda need 6 months minimum to solve their problems. That means writing off most of the 2026 season. Lawrence Stroll's patience might not last that long. There's also whether Honda would accept Horner. They've never worked together directly. Horner praised Red Bull's Honda partnership during championship years, but that was a different Honda team with different engineers. This current Honda group doesn't have that relationship. Will they trust him? And what about the drivers? Alonso is 43 years old, on a short-term contract. How long will he tolerate a car that could cause permanent injury? Lance Stroll is Lawrence's son, but even he has limits. His wrist injuries from a 2023 cycling accident, which required additional surgery in 2025, make vibration issues even more dangerous. If doctors say continuing to drive risks permanent damage, what happens? These are problems Horner would inherit. Massive technical failures, strained manufacturer relationship, safety concerns, driver frustration, owner expectations, limited time to fix everything. But he'd also inherit the power to actually address them, something Newey doesn't have while splitting focus between design and team management. The question isn't really whether Aston Martin needs Horner, they clearly do. The question is whether Newey will accept it, whether his ego can survive admitting the team principal role was a mistake, whether Lawrence Stroll will force the issue regardless of Newey's preferences, whether Horner even wants to walk into this disaster. For Horner, it's a massive risk. Join a failing team with catastrophic technical problems and a manufacturer relationship already showing cracks after one race. But it's also an opportunity. turn around Aston Martin's disaster, and he cements his legacy beyond managing Red Bull's dominant eras. He becomes the executive who salvaged a super team and helped Newey succeed outside Milton Keynes. The Alpine situation adds urgency. If Wolff successfully blocks that deal, Horner needs an alternative. He's been out of F1 since July, almost a year on the sidelines. He's said publicly he has unfinished business in Formula One. He's not content watching. Reports say Aston Martin is now Horner's most likely destination. That means Newey's political problem is about to become very real. Accept Horner and lose autonomy, refuse Horner and watch the project collapse. Either way, the AMR26 disaster just created new trouble for Adrian Newey that has nothing to do with vibrations or power units. It's about admitting you need help, even when you're the greatest designer in Formula One history, even when your ego says you can do it alone, even when accepting that help means sharing power with the one person who knows exactly how much you're struggling. That's the new trouble Newey is facing. And unlike Honda's vibrations, this problem won't be solved with engineering. This requires something Newey has never been good at: compromise.